Hi, I'm Mike Fabio. I'm the Google Liaison and Community Manager for the Google Lunar X Prize. And today we're going to talk about why and how space companies can get involved in participatory space exploration, or as I like to call it, lunar exploration in 140 characters or less. As the Community Manager for the Google Lunar X Prize, I work to build our online outreach programs and engage the public in discussion about space and exploration. I act as both a brand evangelist as well as a space advocate. This is me. I'm 27 years old. I was born in Minnesota, and really I was never a space geek. I went to MIT because I thought it might make me a better musician. Yeah, musician. So working at the X Prize has been an educational experience for me as much as it has for anyone. So why do I do this? And why should space companies care about social media outreach? Well, for starters, of the 7 billion people on this planet, nearly half of them were not even born when man first stepped onto the moon in 1969. Half. And these newcomers didn't grow up wanting to be astronauts either. They wanted to be software engineers and geneticists. In order to reach the next generation of space enthusiasts, it's imperative that we communicate using their preferred mechanisms. So here are 10 things that you need to know about putting your brand forward using social media. Number 1, social media, the 30-second version. Social media are technologies that allow anyone to communicate with everyone. Think about that again. This is really the fundamental concept at play here. The barriers to entry are gone. Anyone can write a blog, can produce a movie, write a song, and the whole world can see it, totally free. Number 2, when entering into social media, it's critical that you know the landscape. Here's a quick clip of Gary Vaynerchuk from Wine Library TV speaking about how he built himself and his business into really a money-making machine just by sort of choosing the right channels and putting out the right content.
What fundamentally happens is you start looking at platforms. For example, the biggest place I sold my book was on Root.com, right? You have to know the landscape. There's certain people that understand. Listen, Twitter is a huge play. If you're not part of Twitter in 2009 as a human being or as a product or service, you are making a fundamental mistake.
Well, clearly Twitter is important then. And I heard everybody's getting on Facebook now. And what about MySpace and Flickr and YouTube and Blogger? Really, the Web 2.0 landscape is as vast as the lunar horizon. And I cannot stress this enough. Strategize first and figure out which platform to use later. Focus on a couple of things. Your message, what you want your customers, your fans, your followers to understand about you and your company. Your brand. If all you ever do is talk about Facebook and YouTube, is anyone ever going to really remember your brand? And outreach, how do you get your message to the widest variety of people? How can you bring new followers into the fold? And that brings us to number 3. Pay attention to the numbers. Metrics are the beating heart of any outreach program. If you neglect the numbers, the entire thing dies. Space geeks are not who you might think they are. This graph shows a simple survey I conducted of 42 people who follow the Google Lunar X Prize on Twitter. So already we know that they're people who use social media. But as you can see, a number of these users are on Facebook, and slightly fewer of them are on professional social network LinkedIn. But where are the MySpace users? I thought all kids were on MySpace. And Orkut? There's followers on Orkut? Does that mean that we have some followers in Brazil? And Bebo and High Five. I mean, where are all the Indian space geeks at? How come those numbers are so low? The problem here is that we just have too much data. We know our audience too well. We know where they live. We know what site they browsed before they came to ours. We know what they're interested in. We even know what kind of computer they use. We know that they're predominantly male, and that, believe it or not, most are above the age of 35. Even the ones that are using something like YouTube, although there are a healthy number of users younger than that. Stop obsessing over the numbers. Think about people. These are just a few of the many people that follow us on Twitter, by the way. 40 years ago, this was a space scientist. Today, these are space scientists. Sure, the other guy's still working, still exploring, but we have a new generation of geeks that need to be reached. By the way, that's the most recent crew of the Mars Desert Research Station. But I know what you're thinking. Come on, should I be Twittering this or what? No, really, stop asking which services should be using. It's not important. What is important is the message. So to appease you, here's a little bit of how you get that message out there. Build your network from the inside out. Have a central aggregation point for all of the media that you're creating. This can be a blog or a web page or whatever. Then, build peripheral properties around this to provide a rich experience for your users. By linking all of these back to your aggregation point, you can centralize your discussion and drive traffic back to your brand. Number 7, know your niche. You're a space company, right? Or maybe just a space fanatic. Doesn't matter. Either way, you have to tailor your content to your user base. For instance, we know that X Prize fans love things like Spaceship One. But we also know that they respond to space-related internet memes. Or, as in the case of this video, it can be something as silly as papercraft solar systems. Here you can see the Copernican model of the solar system. The handle here that you can turn to go ahead and rotate. Believe it or not, that's one of the most heavily trafficked posts that's ever been published to an X Prize blog. Just remember, don't ever forget who you are. If you're a rocket company, talk about rockets. If you're a communications company, talk about satellites. You get the idea. But also, never forget to keep it real. Here's a tweet from October last year, just after I immolated my hand to the meatball gods. It's important that you remember that the people at the other end of your communication are exactly that. They're people. And they expect you to be human as well. This is a fundamental difference between traditional and new media. The human factors that define what we call social media. Don't forget, you are your brand. Your employees are your brand. Your fans are your brand. And all of these people need to be actively involved in promoting and educating others about your mission. How do you get them to talk about you? Well, it's easy. You engage them. They want to talk about you. It's fun. But you have to give them something to talk about. Content, content, content. The question I get asked more than anything else, hands down, is how do I get people to my website? How do I get more followers on Twitter? It's simple. You give them something good to talk about and they'll find you. Or as I like to say, you can let Google take care of the rest. Here's a staggering statistic for you. Think about this for a moment. Every minute of every day, 365 days per year, 13 hours of footage are uploaded to YouTube. That's almost 19,000 hours per day. Almost 7 million hours per year. Why on earth is so much content being created? Because somebody is watching it. Here's an ad that ran this past Super Bowl by the online video site Hulu.
Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, what are you going to do, turn off your TV and your computer?
You can't turn it off. People are consuming media at unprecedented rates. You may as well give them something to be excited about. And you need to have all of this on your site. Here's the Google Lunar X Prize site. You can see we've got multiple blogs, feature stories, video, forums, Twitter feeds, all right there on the front page. You need to aggregate your brand's media and give your fans a platform to discuss it. Every week, I like to engage my community in an online activity. I call it Friday Fun Day. We've done all kinds of crazy things, like collaborative space art using Google spreadsheets, or space haikus via Twitter, or building a map of space geeks in places all over the world using Google Maps. And that leads us to perhaps the most important point of all. You need to have some fun with this. Space is serious business. It would be a shame not to enjoy it. This is about community, about bringing together people with love of space, of exploration, and giving them something to cheer for, something to participate in, and something to be excited about. Thank you.